Today on the show, strategy plus action equals a thriving business ecosystem.
It's time to think bigger and make bold moves to create the life and business you were meant for. We're here to give you the latest in marketing strategies and the confidence to put them into action. We bring you hardworking entrepreneurs starting from scratch and visionary leaders of cutting-edge companies looking to scale. You have a front row seat as we guide these business owners to a path of massive growth through customized marketing approaches and creative sales initiatives. Welcome to Strategy and Action. Here are your hosts, Jason Croft and Johnathan King.
Welcome to Strategy and Action. We're your hosts, Jason Croft and Johnathan King.
Hello, hello.
I'm excited to bring you episode 3 here with Stephen Olmon. Just an amazing dude. I love his intriguing mantra that he's got going right now. LinkedIn headline all the way through to his site, 50 companies by 2050. And that's enough to get me curious. Knowing Stephen, I have no doubt that he's got a serious plan to make that happen. This is one more solo episode that I had done previously, but I know, Johnathan, you've had a chance to dig in as well, and get. I'd love to hear some of your insights from the interview.
Man, I loved it. Stephen is another one of those connectors. Just knowing a bit about him, we kind of hang out in the same circles, especially when I was back in Dallas. And so just driven through connection, driven through community, and driven to achieve a big goal. And so his whole thing is about helping other people achieve their goals as well by building some awesome companies. And so he's done a great job so far. I think you guys are going to love this episode.
Yeah, absolutely. And the real hook here around the building a business ecosystem, I love his take on that. And exactly, it's really kind of formalizing some of the things, Johnathan, even you and I have done, right? Putting all these connections around, but then getting extra purposeful with that and putting people in place, one business that can help the other. It's really, really sharp. I encourage you all to check out this episode. So let's get to it. Stephen Olmon is on the show today. I'm so excited. Stephen is a former management consultant with KPMG and the former director of business development for the healthcare SaaS company SimpleLTC. I got to know Stephen really well over the last few years, fortunately, at the Tuesday Morning Coffee Club that I host, where Stephen co-hosted with me for a long time. And I got to tell you, I'm always impressed with the insights he brings to every business discussion we've ever had. I've watched him guide startups and seasoned business owners alike, time and again in those Tuesday morning meetings, bringing clarity, brilliant tactics, and introductions to the right people to each of them. Now, in addition to being a husband and proud papa of 2, he is the owner of Olmon Ventures. So I'm very intrigued with his LinkedIn headline that simply states 50 companies by 2050. I have a feeling that it's a metric that is strongly tied to the personal business ecosystem that he's creating, which, in his words, is made up of multiple partners, some overlapping, and creating service companies that serve the other companies within the ecosystem. So let's dive into exactly what that means, the scope of it all, and the strategies you can take to apply to your own endeavors. Stephen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for jumping on here with us. So right away, I got to know, you've got me very intrigued here, like I said. So what is this design? What is this business ecosystem that you're putting together?
I think I'm just a natural connector. So as I started to zoom out and give myself more freedom to create what I kind of wanted to, like business is art. And so I started to think, hey, instead of connecting people, I'd really like to connect companies, all of which I have some degree of involvement in. So I think it was kind of born out of my nature to just kind of naturally connect. And so now it's more so connecting a web of companies.
That's really interesting on two levels. One is that strength, right? And of number one, identifying your strength. So, finding that, we're both very much like that. We just love that. We thrive in that, connecting people together. And at the heart of, yes, connecting businesses, well, it's people at those businesses you're going to connect, certainly. But I also like what you said in the very beginning too, which is that creative aspects to business, and not, it's so easy to kind of just have our heads down and this is what you do. I'm starting this business. This is what I do. This is, and you kind of have those blinders on of just what has come before. And it's really impressive when someone like yourself can okay, hold on, let's take a step back here. And what do I really want to create? And so in connecting those business, what does that definition do? What does that mean to connect them? Is it official, unofficial? Are they tied together legally, or is it simply how they work with each other?
Sure. So, to clarify something, if I don't ever get to 50, that's okay. That's my North Star. It's kind of what I'm tracking towards, and it's more of a mindset. So some of them will be vertically integrated companies. Some companies already are service companies to the other companies. I'm already working with a few different partners on 2 or more projects. So there's like clusters, if you will, of companies that will kind of spawn out of a relationship. So, and that's nice because it's efficient, right? So I can have a meeting with one person about 3 companies in an hour's time, or 2 hours. Yeah. So some of it is kind of designed for efficiency. Some of it I'm still discovering ultimately in terms of what you said, what does that mean? But in general, that's kind of what I think it means. And I'm still discovering it some. And I think also, if I actually end up getting to 50 or more, I'm open to more, open to 51. Likely it won't only be building. I imagine someday I'll buy, and I already have one company in mind. So I have a digital marketing agency, and every young company needs marketing effort, right? But they don't all hire early marketing employees. So digital marketing agency makes a lot of sense to kind of sit at the top as a service company to other companies I'm starting or am involved in. Another company that I hope to buy someday is a CPA or an accounting firm. And, inject other leadership in there. And so I've kind of already identified one of those companies. So that's just another example of, some of it will be service, some of it will be integrated partnerships, and some of it will be totally separate, standalone, even potentially.
And so like those tangible examples, can you give me, some examples, like what business do you have, working together now that are naturally working together?
Sure. So I think, given my background, mainly in technology, I'll say 2/3 of the businesses will probably end up being digital online businesses. But I do have, as an example, I have an artificial turf company, which is super random. I have a partner that has some good experience in it. And he said, hey, I'd like to turn this hustle into a company. And I have really good expertise on the product side, and I want someone to help me kind of grow a brand. I said, hey, that sounds interesting to me. Plus, from a diversification standpoint, it gets me out of being fully digital, but I can apply, my digital marketing agency to do services for that company. So that's an example of how that might interact or have interplay.
Yeah. And so what's sort of that filter for you? I mean, you listed some of those criteria. I mean, the diversification, and you've got a co-founder who knows what they're doing in that niche. And then I would imagine that third main component is, okay, here's what I know I can bring to the table. And how do you how do you vet that when you're going through that process? And okay, this is an industry I don't know anything about. Yeah, the other guy does, but what tips the scale for you to say yes? Well,
the first thing that is a requirement is that I don't do it alone. So I have no interest in owning 100% of any company except for my holding company anymore. So my number one filter is, have I identified a partner or partners? Because I don't work well in isolation. I don't think that's healthy for me. And I would coach most people away from that. There's a few businesses where I suppose you're inherently kind of an independent operator, but I seek out a partner or partners first, right? Mm-hmm. And then in terms of my value, it does depend on what the industry is, what the product or service is. I was taught by my father from a young age that you got to surround yourself with people a lot smarter than you and you'll be fine. So I think a lot of times it's me using that connecting skill to say, what are the gaps in order to make this thing successful, and then go onboard those people and incentivize them well, whether it is through equity or some sort of other structure. But a lot of times I sit in a place on kind of the sales and marketing side, strategy. So those are kind of the main buckets that I have background in and I'm good at. I have some product experience from a SaaS perspective. But a lot of businesses, the more businesses I get involved in, the more they're the same in ways. It's not always true, but there are some commonalities. And so the more that I do, it's like cross training. So that's really fun.
What's your system to sort of validate? Okay, yeah, this is great. This other guy knows it, but is there enough of a market for it?
Whenever I'm thinking about a new venture, which there are several right now, like I'm right in this, and I'm thinking, how do I de-risk this? And the two main filters, I think, from de-risking are time and money. So I'd like to invest a minimal amount of time and a thoughtful amount of money, but ultimately a limited amount of money if I can, to prove out, is this, old Yeller, take it all back and shoot it? Or is this, hey, this has got some traction, let's double down. So that's kind of my general mindset. I want to try to validate or invalidate quickly, which isn't like some new thought, right? There's a lot of other people that have talked about that sort of approach before me, but I've taken to that. And so,
sure. Well, yeah. And there's knowing you should do it and actually doing it too.
Right. That's true. So I think, I suppose I've gotten better at that, and I'm getting better at that. But the other thing from a validation standpoint is it's just like very binary. It's not this simple, but if we try to make it binary for a second, is this a type of business that I'm going to go compete for market share that already exists? Or am I going to have to educate a market or, a set of prospects or potential customers that don't really know they want this yet? I would way rather go into a market that's already established and take some market share, doing something more efficiently, more effectively, some type of innovation. That's what a lot of people already do, right? Again, it's nothing new under the sun. Every once in a while there is, but I like to look at, there's a lot of artificial turf businesses in Dallas-Fort Worth today, right? But we did start that company because we thought that we could, as we talked to some people, some potential partners. So we talked to a few pool companies, and we kept on hearing from people, we can't stand any of the turf companies that we work with. We don't even ask for like a kickback, like just straight up, just do a good job. And there's no one we like. So that to me is some signal. I think we can go in and just create really strong service and serve people well and have a successful company. So that's one model. The other model is way harder when you're having to educate people that don't know that they want that thing. But both of those are viable. I'm open to both of those routes, but I'm doing more of the former.
Yeah, because definitely from a just a time, especially when you're doing multiple companies like that. But even just one, I mean, that's I'm a big fan of that as well. And unless you've got something that's just, man. It's a quick ramp up on that education process, and it's so amazing that's okay. I want in on this. Like I just have a feeling, and there's probably again the more you have though too, the more companies you have going on, probably the more chances you can sort of I got a little time for this. I can take a risk on this one, and if it's a quick enough ramp up education, and you can just say,
oh, hey, customer base, it's this plus this. And then they go, oh, that's amazing. I need that. And you go, yeah. And then you're off to the races.
Right. Yeah. And I'll give an example right now, and I don't mind sharing if someone wants to go execute on this idea better than me. God bless them. But an idea that I've been getting, so that I suppose I didn't say that earlier. I always want to get a lot of feedback from people first, kind of in my trusted circle of entrepreneurial friends and just other friends that maybe aren't even business owners. Just like to get a lot of feedback. You know, it's just the worst idea you've ever heard. And so I am a father. I've got 2 kids under the age of 2. And as a general thesis, I believe that there's no safe place for guys to go learn about the kind of like scary, gross, maybe you could say gross, or just weird stuff of pregnancy and birth. There's just a lot of stuff that goes on there. And I don't think that there's a safe place where people point people to and say, hey man, congrats, you know, y'all are pregnant. That's awesome. You got to go read this, watch this. It's going to talk about like the real stuff, like just kind of the surface level stuff. But people don't really know that they want that today. Like I've looked around and I haven't really found what's in my brain. So I think it would take some education, but it's familiar. Like people already are suggested to read like this book on pregnancy or something. Right. So it's kind of like in a genre that kind of exists, but it's a different version, so that maybe there is an in between as well.
Oh yeah, that's great. That is a good idea. Yeah, I think that does seem like something that's sort of lacking out there. That would gain traction today way more than 20, 30 years ago for sure.
Right.
So I really like this idea. I like this approach because it's, you know, it's funny. Like, I think you kind of fall into that category of probably answering the question, trying to answer the question a lot of times of like, now what do you do? What's your company with this? And you've got, you know, it's like, well, there's a lot of things. And of course it, you know,
right.
It depends on who you're speaking to, right? Like if it's a potential client of one of those companies, you're like, well, this is exactly what I do. And here's how I can help you.
Right.
But yeah, but I also really like the fact that you embrace that fact, right? And there's always, you know, a struggle to kind of communicate. How do you best communicate the message and when you're meeting someone and all that kind of stuff. But there's something awesome about embracing the gray, right? Like, okay, this is new. This ecosystem I'm putting together, I'm going to kind of create a name for it and
right.
you know, teach people what that is. I love that.
Yeah, it's for a while I felt like I kind of had to apologize to people. They would like rubbed them the wrong way, or it was confusing, or you know, maybe for some of my friends that are like super traditional W-2, they were almost like threatened by it, or I just had some interesting conversations over the course of time, and I decided I was just going to own it and just throw it out there. Like the 50 by 2050, honestly, I've gotten some fascinating inbound, you know, questions and new connections and people I've gotten to meet over the last, you know, many months.
Oh, wow.
So I just decided to like put it out in the world and own it and see what happened. And it's actually been really refreshing and actually really productive, and I'll even say lucrative. So, you know, I think even from just starting to put out some, you know, more content and being more vocal about what I'm doing, I've gotten, you know, maybe a few new business partners that I'm starting to get to be more comfortable with, that we might partner on something soon. So it's been a fun journey to kind of unlock that and unleash that and just be open with it. I liked what you said, being like comfortable in the gray. That's very much my life. I think my wife would she would laugh at that here. That's very true. Yeah, that's definitely where we're at.
And that's great. And I want to really highlight what you talked about there, though, too, is how important talking about what you do is. I mean, I even had, you know, a slap in the face moment to myself, you know, on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago. I was on somebody else's, you know, profile, and she makes logos, she graphics, and in her profile, in her post, I make logos, I do this. And it was the most concise, to the point, like, and then, you know, a video of her making a logo, right? And it was just like, why am I not doing that. I can do, 10 other things, but like I'm spending all this time like, yeah, I should, put out a series on this and content around this and that. It's like, okay, I'm not doing the basics right now, which is talking about, hey, here's what I do. Just simple, right? Who needs this? And I think two things happen. One is, we get, 10 miles down the road and we forgot like, oh yeah, I forgot to do the first thing. But then others, get worried about, well, I don't want to seem too self-promotional and blah, 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 blah. Man, put your story out there, put your content out there and put, exactly what you've just done. Like talk about it. Like, this is weird. This is different. I don't know exactly what it means. And I'm going to say, I don't know exactly what it means, but here's what it means to me today.
Right.
Bring on the feedback, So I think that's fantastic. And I love how that's transitioned into even clients and potential business partners. That's awesome. So
yeah, not surprising. I would say not surprisingly, the single like piece of content that's gotten the most engagement that I've put out in the last handful of months was about joint ventures. And unsurprisingly, it's like, hey, I'm interested in joint ventures. Here's some thoughts on joint ventures, and it's resulted in some potential joint ventures. Shocking.
It's amazing how that works.
We're all astonished. Yeah, it's like, so I agree with what you're saying.
I love it. So there's some parallels to this, but it's also, definitely a different topic that you've brought up before, that I really want to dive into before I let you go, which is your feeling on how, every one of us, every person is a company, right? Like even if you're, Joe Smith, the company, Jane Smith, the company, how does that manifest itself and why do you say that?
Yeah, that's one of the number one things I harp on right now. And I think it rubs people the wrong way at times. I think it'd be kind of abrasive if people don't really listen. But what I mean by that is I don't care if you're, and I'm going to totally profile right now. Like, I don't care if you're Janet in accounting at Megacorp that's been a W-2 employee for the last 22 years, or you're Jason Croft, or you're the guy doing land deals in West Texas, or it doesn't matter. I think that every single one of those people is a company. Some of those companies choose to rent their time to another company in kind of a 40 to 50 hour arrangement for a very set parameters and pay. Other people do things differently. I don't think either of them are wrong or right, but I do think not viewing yourself as such is a flaw. So when you start to view yourself as an entity or as a company, I think that places a different value on your time. I think it places a different value on what you're good at. And I think it opens your eyes to new possibilities. Like, I have a lot of friends that have W-2 jobs that also have other companies on the side where they out-earn their W-2 income with their other business because they started to see themselves differently and were open to just kind of being fully like who they are and not just kind of limiting themselves. And so I do think that not viewing yourself as a company is somewhat limiting. So that's why I try to just coach people to view themselves as an entity, as, view yourself as an LLC. Does that change anything about your life? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't.
Yeah. I like that a lot too. And one of the greatest benefits to people certainly thinking about themselves that way, but definitely in actually going and starting even the smallest thing on the side, is that awareness that comes from that experience that comes from that then colors your work, your quote unquote, day job, is just amazing. And as an employer, like there's, to allow and encourage that. And of course, splitting time and, not doing it on work time and all of the stuff. Yeah. Those are of course. But, there's some places that do encourage that because that awareness comes in like, oh, this is why it's taking a little longer to get this accomplished at the office because it's a massive version of this little thing that I'm doing. And oh my goodness, that's difficult or hard, or, oh, here's how what I do at the company fits into the bigger picture. I mean, all these insights that come from doing that are amazing. And I would imagine that people being sort of rubbed the wrong way are I think they immediately go to, oh, I'm a company. Oh, I'm just a cog, or I'm just like, what about me as a person, and blah 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 blah. It's like you said, they're not taking in the full message there.
Right. Exactly.
But yeah, I think that awareness, and we're just, I think there's insights that even 40 years ago could have been valuable to people working a job, but now more than ever, and the trend just keeps heading that way, is that you better think of yourself that way, and you better have something else going on the side of yourself, because we don't live in this get a job and work it for 40 years, kind of society anymore. And we're just going more and more that direction of either the freelancer or the, different worker like that, or somebody with multiple gigs,
Yeah, some of it's preparation for the future as well. So like I have a friend that recently, he was in a great sales job and he transitioned over to Salesforce, and he's got an awesome role. He's over a pretty large territory. I'm really happy for him. But he reached out to me and he said, I really want to start building more of a personal brand, not because I'm trying to leave this job I just got 3 months ago, but I think that it's just a wise move. And so whether it's like personal branding or it's just seeing yourself in that light and thinking about the future, just starting to kind of have some different thoughts and planning for the future, seeing yourself in a little bit of a different light, even if it doesn't mean it affects your today, it may affect your tomorrow in a really positive way. So that's why I like to just tell people, even if they're in a job they've been in for several years and they really enjoy it, I'm not telling people to go eject from that, but I still think that it's an investment for the future that may be useful.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, fantastic. Well, this has been a blast, man. I've got some rapid fire questions for you that are fun here. I'll hit you with a couple of them, but first, let's know how can people follow you and link up with you and all that good stuff.
Yeah, really active on LinkedIn. I think there's over 260 million active users on LinkedIn, and under 1% have ever published their own content. So
wow,
jump on LinkedIn.
Crazy.
Get involved. So LinkedIn, and then Twitter at Stephen Olmon. Those are the two places I'm most active.
Fantastic. And I'll definitely second what you're saying about LinkedIn. It's one of the, I mean, you talk about the number one place to go and start to cultivate build your personal brand and cultivate sort of a following of people, if you will. It's amazing over there. All right, sir. A couple of rapid fire questions for you, Stephen. Hustle and grind or go with the flow?
Ooh, I go with the flow. Hustle and grind is a little too Gary V for me. Although I like Gary, but I'll go with the flow.
Awesome. Niche down or stay broad?
Niche down. The riches are in the niches.
Very nice. Very nice. Let me give you one more. Which are you stronger at, strategy or action?
Strategy. And I try to find awesome people that are a lot smarter than me for a lot of the action.
Oh, that's great. I'm in a similar boat. It's like I got tons of good ideas. So it's, anybody want to execute on us? Well, this is awesome. Thanks so much for being on. And everybody, I hope this episode has inspired you to think of new strategies for your business. Now, go take some action.
I'm so impressed with what Stephen has already built in the time that I've known him, and now what he's got going as a goal. And this whole concept of a business ecosystem is just fantastic.
I love it. And Jason, one of the things that we've done is we've tried to put together our own business ecosystem as a resource on Facebook with the group Strategy in Action. So if you guys haven't joined yet, if you're not a member of that community, please join that. It's a place over 500 business owners, entrepreneurs, salespeople, and just people looking to help each other. So check it out on Facebook, and we look forward to connecting with you there.
Awesome. Fantastic. We'll see you all over there, and we'll see you next time on Strategy and Action.
Thanks for listening. You've learned what's working on the front lines of business. Now it's time to get to work. Apply to the Strategy and Action group on Facebook to learn more and for a chance to connect with the guests on this show. Join us next time for Strategy and Action.